Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started, and I hope you can hear me well enough with my mask on. But welcome to the Judicial Committee meeting. I'm going to go ahead and call it to order, and I will ask for the adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion?
I motion that the agenda be adopted as given.
Let's see. Okay, is there a second? Is there a second? Second. It's been moved and properly second that the agenda be adopted as written. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we have the approval of the minutes from September 25th, 2024. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that the minutes for September 24th, 2024 be approved. All in favor of said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, the minutes are approved. We have two appointments today. The first one is Mr. Nathan Scales, the public defender. We will listen to you first, Mr. Scales. And thank you for coming.
Would they be opposed to doing it jointly?
Y'all can do it together any way you'd like, if that's okay with you.
That's fine.
Get the most of everything.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Appreciate y'all having us here. We've been looking forward to the opportunity to address y'all. Mike Birch, native Chesterfield County resident here, new solicitor for the Fourth Circuit, and of course Nate Scales, as y'all just called up. He's the public defender. Of course, we're standing up here together because we're trying to take a new approach here for asking for funds for our offices. And I want to start with thank all y'all for y'all's commitment to our offices in the past decade. Chesterfield County has led all four counties in funding, and we can't show appreciation for that through words, but we both are in the situation where we are in last in funding throughout the state for the circuit. We decided to do a joint presentation based on other circuits' success by doing that. We work together, even though we're on different sides of the courtroom. I can't live without him and he can't live without me. Just
Right.
We work in tandem. If he's not well funded and I am, we're getting nothing done. So that's why we went through this approach, and I think most of y'all got our joint proposal. I do have it here. I was expecting 3, so what I was told, so I apologize for not having a packet for everyone, but I want to hand you up some documents that we have, and most of it's numbers from the Prosecution Coordination Commission. So I think, I'm not sure who's.
Just Miss Hattie, McClendon, and Eddie.
Bear with me. These are dockets. First of all, these are dockets.
Miss Burns and Eddie Bassett.
I get my meetings mixed up, so I apologize. Y'all feel free to share this. We'll get into this. This is a docket from this week's court here in Chesterfield. This is a packet for current arrest warrant numbers that are pending in the Fourth Circuit, as well as current funding and our joint proposal, if you don't already have a hard copy. And in that packet, of course, Nate, feel free to interject anytime. In that packet, you'll see numbers. First, you'll see the arrest warrants. We have decreased in population across the 4 counties. I think the only part that's really growing is the west end of Chesterfield County. but Chesterfield as a whole in the past decade has decreased. Warrants in the circuit have increased tremendously. The 5-year new warrants is at 6,099. That's an increase of 13.9%. So even though the population is decreasing, warrants are going up. We're in a poor rural area, and unfortunately, in those areas, crime's rampant. And then if you look at the funding from the different circuits, we currently average in Chesterfield County $3.34 per capita, that's per taxpayer, for solicitor's office funding. State average is $13.61. Average per warrant funding in the state is $549. Chesterfield's at 84. And in Chesterfield, like I said, you've given the most, so the other three are around the same, if not lower. I will say we've had great discussions. We've talked with every county so far, several different county councilmen and administrators, and we're getting great feedback. We're expected to get significant funding from Dillon County and Darlington County. Dillon, I think, we'll probably give it, well, this is all hope, this is what we're being told, but we're hoping to get a good sum in 1 year. Darlington's wanting to do a 3-year phase approach to get us where we need to be. And both of those counties are in the bottom 5, or top 5, however you want to say it, in violent crime, property crimes. So there's a huge need there. I think most of you are fully aware that the legislature put in significant funding for both of us, especially on my side, in the past few years. And that was great. We really desperately needed it. But what it addressed was basically retention for us. As you all are aware, inflation has been rampant throughout the nation, and especially here in South Carolina. So what it did was it allowed us to give cost of living raises for our current employees. We were able to hire 2 new attorneys in the solicitor's office. One, this is a previous administration that started a month ago.
Right.
Solicitor Rogers put one of those attorneys in Marlboro. We saw a 25% reduction in warrants by having an extra attorney in Marlboro County. I'll let Nate talk about his people and how that's affected it. We had one put here in Chesterfield County. It reduced the warrant numbers by 15%. You got to understand, putting a dent in Marlboro is a lot easier because it's less warrants, less people. So I think both of those show that investments were made and there was a success seen for that investment. Right now, I have 4 attorneys here. 3 are full-time, 1's part-time. Current warrant number I had as of this morning was 2,546 warrants. That's 636 warrants per attorney. I made a good analogy at the Hartsville breakfast, Chamber of Commerce breakfast last week. I said, Kenny Mitchell here is in private practice. If he had 600 plus cases in his office, it'd be malpractice for him. I mean, there's too many cases per person. So we're trying to get that number down by having additional staff. Some things I've done, the first month and a half I've been here, I've restructured the office. Essentially, I had 2 deputy solicitors who were lead prosecutors in the circuit. I changed that and I put a deputy solicitor over each office. Bernard Redmond, as most of you know, he's one of my most seasoned trial attorneys. I put him in charge of Chesterfield. He was being pulled all 4 directions because of his expertise. He was handling the biggest cases.
And death penalty.
And death penalties. And he's retained a lot of those cases. However, he's pulling back to lead this office and make sure we have a hierarchical structure in place so our other attorneys and staff will have someone, when I can't be here every day because I'm being pulled to the other 3, someone to lead them and make sure that they're going, we all have the same shared vision. So I'm already seeing good results from that. I handed you all a packet for the caseload this week here across the street here at the courthouse. In my view, we had a full docket. Of course, there's some things out of our control. We can't control all the different parts of the equation. We have a great judge out of Columbia, and her schedule has deviated a little bit from what we presented to her. For example, she has a speaking engagement on Friday morning. We had things with probation and non-jury matter that we wanted to put forward, and we can't have them heard. So there are things that we want to see, and sometimes we can't follow through because of outside factors. But I hope that that's the continued trend going forward, is that we'll efficiently use our court time when we have it, because we only have so much a year here in Chesterfield. Mostly the bigger circuits and the bigger metro areas are using up court time because we only have so many judges in the state and so many court reporters. I've tried to emphasize the violent crimes and the jail numbers. I know y'all get a jail list every day, and we're overcrowded. I know the bond laws really affected that. The new bond laws that where violent offenders were rearrested, they weren't given a bond unless there were certain extenuating circumstances. So that has elevated the jail numbers. I sent out an email to our staff this week. I said, make sure you have an offer for everybody in the jails. We don't want any excuses on our end that we're not prepared to move that case or we haven't evaluated it. So we push it to the defense attorney so they can talk to their client about whether they want to take that offer for plea or whether they want to go to trial. So we're trying to get our ducks in a row, and I feel good about the direction we've been headed. Some things we are fighting with, just recruiting and retaining attorneys. I have in my packet a flyer that was sent to me by the Sixth Circuit. Did I give it to you? I have a million things up here. This is what Solicitor Newman Jarl West has implemented.
Thank you.
In his circuit. If you look at the Sixth Circuit numbers, I have extra here.
Thank you.
He gets over $1 million from Lancaster County. I know we're not Lancaster County, we probably never will be, but we're trending that direction. He's offering $5,000 sign-on bonus for a brand new attorney out of law school. He's offering $10,000 sign-on bonus to 10-year seasoned attorneys. So Nathan and I are not only competing with our colleagues and friends in government, but we're also competing with private law firms who are paying attorneys way more now than when we started as lawyers. So the competition is fierce, and if we don't advocate for our offices, we're falling behind. And that's why we're here. It's a good faith effort. It's not any kind of criticism of what y'all have done. And quite frankly, on my side, I don't know of any advocacy from this office that's gone forward in the past 10 years. And that's what I want to do. I want to advocate for my office. I want to make sure it's beefed up so we give the taxpayers and the citizens the best product we can give them. We can keep the streets safe, so forth and so on. Part of our proposal is not only hire an attorney, but we have to plan for the future with office space. I want to thank y'all for what you've done so far. I know we're planning to move to one office on the solicitor side across the street. Currently, we are in 2 different locations. We're at 105 Green Street and 207 West Main. Just being here a month and a half, it doesn't produce much organization or communication with my staff. Just bouncing back and forth, trying to talk to one person over, just face-to-face has been a challenge. Putting everybody under the one roof is going to make our efficiency that much better. So thank you all for that. And with that said, we put in our budget proposal just a vague, request for funding for keeping up with office expenses and having adequate office space. But I didn't get into the weeds on it. On my side, I am touring the voter registration building this week for the 3rd time with Senior Deputy Solicitor Kenara Redmond. We were looking at the space we have. It's adequate space, it's great space. But is it usable space? And I don't think it's usable right now, but I don't think we're far from making it usable. I think we just need to put partitions up to give, for example, attorneys private space to conduct big meetings, whatever, but just to have their own private space. There's a huge room that's, I counted, I think 25 two by 3.5 tiles. I mean, I think we could fit 6 office spaces in there with partition and door. And then we have some space in the lobby that could be turned into offices. So I'm moving essentially 13 people from 105 to voter registration. And that front side's gonna be great, but I'm asking for help and renovating it from y'all. And another thing I have in there, y'all currently pay an investigator, Clarence Francis, for y'all's budget. And I appreciate him, he's doing a great job. I'd love to have him on my budget, if that's something y'all would be willing to provide. Y'all pay him salary plus benefits. So I've talked plenty enough, and of course I'm happy to answer any questions. I'll yield the rest of my time to Esquire Nathan Scales.
Thanks. And again, I'm Nathan Scales. I'm the Chief Public Defender in the Fourth Circuit. I've worked here my entire career, came straight out of law school, started in Chesterfield County, and have kind of worked my way around. I'm based out of Dillon now, is where my main office is. But, you know, just piggybacking off what Mike said, really it's kind of a simple equation. The way I see it, you know, we need more law enforcement out there. I think it's a good thing. You know, obviously that falls on you guys, and it's a hard job to try to articulate what is proper on as far as monetarily. But I just wanted you to keep in mind that we're an extension of that arm. We handle you hire more, or you give the law enforcement more money, they hire more deputies, they create more cases. We deal with all of those cases on the back end. And we handle everything from misdemeanors to murders. We're in three to four different courts: magistrate, municipal, family courts, and general sessions courts. When I started, I was with a senior attorney for about 6 months, and then I was by myself for the rest of the time. Now we have 2 attorneys and 2 staff members over here. And just to go through I tried to hit the ground running last year and tried to implement some things I think would be useful in the future. In Darlington County, like, we've been able to reduce the amount of PD jail cases from March to March, 28% reduction, 108 cases down to 78 cases. And that's just adding 1 PD. And like he said, in Marlboro, it's been a 25% reduction. You know, adding a public defender and solicitor, that burnout thing he was talking about, that's something very real. I've had an attorney that has been a public defender for 15 to 20 years, and you know, he had to bow out and take a reduced role just because he was the only one in that county working in the public defender's office. And Mike talked about efficiency. We're trying to be more efficient. We're adding general session non-jury terms to help with jail and, you know, for the weeks that we have trials. Because if I have 2 attorneys working a trial, there's not going to be a lot of pleas that week. And that's where the bulk of the cases are moved during pleas. And we, over the last 3 years, and I do have this to hand out for you guys. Over the last 3 years, post-COVID, talking about the cases that are coming in by year, it's 2020, starting in 2022, 1830, and in 2022, I'm sorry, I had that backwards. 1732 cases coming in, going out was 1830. 2023, 118, and moved, and they had incoming warrants at 1885. burn rate of 233 cases, and then in 2024, we had 1671 coming in and 1778 going out. So we're getting the work done despite having trials, but you have to decide what you want your burn rate to be, because at a burn rate of 100 to 200 cases a year, it's going to take a long time to dig out of this hole. And we do appreciate anything that we do get. There's a multitude of factors that go into a court week, as Mike was alluding to, whether it be issues with judge and scheduling or trials. Like I touched on, sometimes clients change their mind even though a plea's set up. So if I've got two attorneys there and one breaks down, that leaves a lot to the other attorney. And really, it also kind of starts in summary court. I know we're going to touch on judicial subjects, but, getting magistrate judges to give reasonable bonds under the circumstances, if they're allowed to, depending on what they're charged with, will certainly help with jail population. And on top of all that, in jail population, you have also things that delay cases like mental health issues, or like SLED, processing forensic pieces of evidence. There's only one place in the state for both of those, and it's kind of just, you get in the back of the line and you wait. I've seen what's called a competency evaluation, basically means that that person cannot aid in their own defense of the case, so they can't go forward criminally. To move through that process, it takes anywhere from 6 months to 18 months. And then they can be found likely to restore competency. That's another 180 days on top of that. So, and then with all the cases and the backlog of cases due to COVID, that's really hurt SLED processing in time for trials, which leads to continuances and so forth. But I appreciate the time. Mike and I have stressed a team mentality, and I think that's important. And I also think you're not going to see that anywhere else in the state. We work closely together. I have my job and he has his, but we're both at the table, willing to work together.
There's something I failed to talk about. I don't like speaking for him, but something I noticed in the past month and a half. There's been a lot of complaints about attorneys not being able to speak to their lawyer. Of course, we can't get into that because they have attorney-client privilege and we can't address them unless they waive it or through their attorney. So I know he's caught a lot of heat about that. But what I've noticed is there are attorneys that represent these indigent people in the jail that don't work for him. They are through what they call a 608 contract through Columbia. And it's for attorneys that either when his people get cases that have conflicts on, or they're so overburdened, they send them to these attorneys. So we found out that a lot of the people that are complaining about not being able to speak to an attorney in a timely manner, it's not his people. So my thought, my perspective was, if he were to have another attorney on his staff, he would have control over them. He would be able to reprimand them if they weren't doing their job, et cetera. And that's, of course, his business. But I was just an outside perspective I saw and noticed coming in here. So, and I don't want to speak for him, of course, but I failed to mention that because I was prepared to inform y'all about that perspective in my presentation. But we're happy to answer, of course, any questions y'all have or concerns or ideas or whatever.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I have heard several times that the and I don't want to call them prisoners, but the inmates don't ever get to see an attorney until the day before court or the day of court. So, and I was thinking they all were in the public defender's office.
Sure. And And that's not my full-time employees. My full-time employees see their clients at least once a month. We have implemented jail appearances in other counties. It started over here. I hope to continue that with Solicitor Birch. And that's a specialized day where they get to come in, meet with the solicitor who gives offers, and meet with us. Usually that's done 1 to 2 weeks before court, but jail is absolute priority over any audience member.
Okay, are there any questions, anyone?
Yes, what would it take, and we all here to help, what would it take from you, Solicitor Birch and Public Defender Nathan Scale, to lower our jail inmates by 50% within the next 18 months? What would it actually take to make that happen?
Staff. Well,
I mean, just let us know, because we
well,
want to help.
I think the first things, what we can control is efficiency of our staff. What I've felt like I've done is hierarchical structures put in place with Solicitor Redmond leading the team, making sure that his staff have a full docket being heard, cases are going through, being prepared for trial whenever we have a judge and a jury. I think the issue we have, and we have no control over this. Columbia gives us the schedule, and we have to react to it. So they put us a term of court this week. We have a break, and then we have another term of court. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense when we only have a handful of people that can go into the courtroom. So it's a gripe we have with Columbia that, I know they're going through changes, they have a new chief justice. But my staff is very frustrated that, well, we're sitting here gearing up for this huge term of court, and then we gotta turn right around and get prepped. Prepping for a jury trial is an enormous task, especially with the new technology we have. We have body cameras we used to not have 6 years ago. We have dash cam videos, we have DNA, ballistics, whatever, you name it. It piles up on our time. So when we have very few people to focus on, okay, if you're trying cases, you're not moving cases. You don't have time.
Right.
If you're moving cases, you're prepping those for trial, for non-jury court. You don't have time for prepping jury trials. Sometimes if you got like a murder case, you're prepping a month in advance somewhere. And even a simple burglary, you're prepping several weeks before, because you're having to meet with witnesses, prep them, you're having to go visit crime scenes, meet with law enforcement, et cetera. So the short answer is people. We don't have the people to move the cases in the manner that you'd like to see.
And the reason why I asked the question, talking to Sheriff Street and Troy Ellis, been to the jail a couple of times. I think we're all in agreement, at least Ethan and I, we don't have the revenue to build another jail. But if we could staff your staff and your staff, that would help out. That last question I have, dollar-wise, what would it take to complete your staff, as well as your staff?
All right, so when we came in, when I came in, we were probably looking at if you get a brand new green attorney out of the law school, with today's market, mid-60s to even get them signed on. My understanding, law clerks are probably gonna be set at about 80 grand by court administration. That's brand new green attorneys right out of law school as well. So we're trying to recruit them. We've always tried to recruit law clerks because they've sat in court with the judge, they've gotten to know us. We're both trying to get them once they're done with that clerkship. Well, if we're paying less than they're making with the judge, no way they're gonna come to us. They're gonna look, Florence, Columbia, Beach, York County, who has a millage, by the way, I found that out. That's a pipe dream. But we can't recruit them. They're not gonna come to us unless they just absolutely have the passion to do that job. So we're trying to just start our people with what the market's demanding. And if they go to private practice, they're looking at 6 figures. So the question, I think we start salary at 80 or 85, where we're recruiting those new lawyers and training them up to be seasoned lawyers, then you have to say, well, what's the seasoned, experienced lawyer you're trying to get? Okay, they're running private practice and they're tired of paying overhead. They're burnt out from that job.
Right.
They wanna not have to worry about paying their employees, and paying payroll taxes and social security, and they wanna get in the courtroom. And we have some of that, but we're very limited because, again, they're gonna look for who pays the most. And so you're looking at 90, 100 or above. Now, I mean, pre-COVID, we were way lower than that, but it's just the market. And
And when we say, starting off at 80, that's like 119,000 with fringe. So, we're, in an ideal world, I'd love to have in the larger counties, 4 attorneys and at least 2 to 3 staff members, one of those being a private investigator. Because they can run down leads and help us out
Right.
a lot when, we're tied up in court over here. I think those general session non-juries days are going to keep us ahead when we have cases that have to be tried, because a lot of these cases, and we're getting a lot of pressure too from Columbia to move these old cases out.
Is it, and I'm Eddie Kirkley, by the way, MACB representative. And I'm new, so I don't know a lot about this. Is there a way to do like a contract? Because what I keep hearing is if you do a budget and you accept the budget, then that's the budget forever and ever. Is that correct?
That's correct. Once you give it, you can't give it back.
Is there a contract negotiable to where we could be able to maybe give and take some and see if it's working, and if it's not working, then we're able to come back to the table? Because what I'm hearing is we can throw all the lawyers at it and all the public defenders at it, but by the end of the day, if it gets over here and we've got a speaking to go to Fridays and Thursdays and all that, we've wasted taxpayers' money for you to be digging in a case, and we've wasted taxpayers' money for you to be fighting the case. I mean, I'm just asking, is there a capability of I want to. I mean, I'm all for, let's get this solved and helping both of the departments out as much as we can. But I don't want to throw good money at bad money, and we have the same situation as we've got right now. I think 130-something people in jail.
That's it.
It was 120-something when I came on, so I'm just saying, I want to help both of you and our sheriff's department and detention centers, but I'm asking, is there a possible contract that could be negotiated with both entities?
I think we're willing to come to the table and, discuss all options.
I'll speak from my side. I don't know what hamstrings it, but I know Lexington County, I believe, has what, get the term, the county pays for those lawyers, and of course, if they're not filled, they don't, the office doesn't get money. I think, of course, we always prefer to have it in our budget, but we are happy to, we're drowning, we need help.
Oh, yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
simple fact.
I agree. I mean,
I think we all want to see whatever help we can get, however it happens.
yeah.
With me, it'd be like, well, I'd love to have the money, because if they were doing a great job, I'd love to reward them and make sure I don't lose them.
Right.
Which I would not have that control over, or he would not have that control over if y'all pay. But if y'all pay them and they're on staff, and they're with our office, and they're making a difference, that's the end goal for all of us. And so, I think Solicitor Hubbard
Well, and I don't know that I'm saying we pay. I mean, we do a contract with the Solicitor's Office and the Public Defender's Office to
Hire for a number of years.
negotiate.
Let me throw a curveball a little bit. And I have literally, I met with y'all last week, was it right? Last week, and just had a discussion. And I haven't told them this, I told Mike this just a minute ago, just a brief rundown. But when we dissect the problem, there's so many different moving parts. And one of the biggest hiccups that I've heard since being on council is once you give it, you can't take it back. And I have an issue with that myself. So if it's gonna cost us, and I'm throwing rough numbers because we hadn't got a hard number on this. If we know we have a jail population issue and we know we have a jail issue, we don't currently have the financial capabilities to spend $60 million on a jail. If we had $60 million to build a 300-bed jail, all we're gonna do is have 300 beds full, and we're still gonna have the same problem.
I agree.
When I look at what Solicitor Birch and Nathan brought to the table, I think they're asking for one and one, right? Roughly, 1 and 1. I think it's setting them up for failure if we give them 1 and 1. And this is gonna be unorthodox, but if you sit back and look at the amount of violent criminals we have in our jail system right now that have been there for years, there's no way that adding one attorney is gonna be able to move those violent criminals through the system at a higher rate than the new cases we have coming in of the violent crimes. So when I look at that, if we give them 1, that's putting a Band-Aid on it just to get us by. And I have not negotiated this with you, so anybody says that this is news to them. If you gave them 2, if you gave the solicitor's office 2 seasoned, if you get green, you're gonna have to train them.
Right.
If you get, and that's a lengthy process, that's not months, that's years, before you actually get full potential out of that position. But if you were to give 2 seasoned salaries that we paid for that and had dedicated trial seasoned attorneys, the staff he currently has could be full force on having pleas ready. Because the way their system is set up, it's just like Mr. Burke said, if you're working on pleas, you can't be working on trials. If you're working on trials, you can't be working on pleas. And what we've seen is when they work on a trial, Monday morning, they got a jury sitting there ready to go because the defendant's feet are up there where the fire is. They decide to make a decision, we want to take our plea deal. And then you got 4 more days that they're scrambling trying to get pleas put together just to keep a week going. So you really need to have 2 teams per se. You need to have trial teams and you need to have plea teams. I think it's already been depicted from the higher ups that's the way a lot of people are doing it. And I think this is the only way. I think every month you need to be pulling a jury. Every trial, every term of court, they needs to be pulling a jury. That way, whatever they got on deck for the trials, those people got to make a decision. We either go on to trial or we're going to take a plea. And in return, you can have the B team with all the pleas sitting on deck. So as soon as they plea out on Monday morning, B team comes in and they got a whole lineup full of pleas. I think that's the only way to actually get ahead of our problem. I think we need to do it in a manner where we can't do it on a year-by-year basis. Because I don't think it's advantageous for them to try to find a seasoned attorney knowing they only got a year to make some improvements or else. So if we did do it in-house with our, under an employee of the county, if we gave the solicitor's office 2, if we gave the public defender's office 1, and all of them had to be dedicated to only Chesterfield County. Only Chesterfield County. If we did that, would that not just absolutely open the door for being able to actually combat the problem that we have? Right now, we're nothing but a cash cow for defense attorneys, because they can get hired by a defendant and they don't ever have to go to court. They don't ever have to go to trial, for the most part, unless you commit one of the most heinous 1 or 2 crimes of that year, because you go on the back burner and the family that's over there beating the drum the loudest, they gonna get the grease. So right now, if we don't look at this from a solution-solving scenario, I don't think that council is gonna see the benefit that they expect to see off of one. I think it's setting them up for failure, and I think it's just a temporary solution.
Can I piggyback off that before you say anything? I agree with Mr. Ford. You're never gonna stop crime. You're never gonna end crime. Crime is gonna always be there. I feel that what you're asking, so many of you all are overworked and underpaid. And not just overworked and underpaid, but you need more help to affirm in what you're doing. The caseload at the jail was how many when he came in? And now it's even more. So violent crimes is gonna always be, misdemeanors is gonna always be. You're not gonna solve the problem and they're not gonna end, but you need some help along the way to make sure everything is getting done in a proper manner and a proper time. Caseloads is gonna be great. They're not gonna end. But I feel like the problem is that you just don't have enough help to affiliate what you're doing at this time. And with more help, it will accommodate you with more resources and more responsibilities to put on different people. After 25 years in working in law enforcement, I just retired just a few years ago, I've seen these types of things. And what Mr. Ford said that I think is a very good idea. We can't afford to spend, what, $60 million buying a new facility at the jail? But you can try to hire more employees that will accommodate, you know, what you got going on. It's gonna always be. You're gonna always have crime, and it's gonna continue to grow and grow and grow. But you got to have people to be there to make sure that everything runs smooth.
I'd like to offer support for that too, Nate and Mike. I think I think you need more help.
Yeah.
I think we need to give you more resources.
Yeah.
And then expect returns on those resources. I'd like to see it just for Chesterfield County, personally.
Yeah.
I think counties need to pay their way. I don't mind putting the money there myself personally, you know, like as a county. I would vote for that to give you more help. I think one person is not going to do it. I think you need more help. I think the violent crimes are going up.
And in
You need more
return,
help.
Yeah.
and in return,
Excuse me 1 second. Mr. Curtis had his hand up. And everybody just kind of jumped in, but let Mr.
I
Curtis
don't
ask
want
his
to
question.
interrupt their thought process, but
Yeah. Go ahead.
I've got the floor, thank you. Appreciate you gentlemen coming. My name's Douglas, and I'm old and wore out. I've been here a long time. And I have sat in that courtroom and observed, and a lot of things I didn't like, both sides. The efficiency in the courtroom, guys, and Mr. Burch, I'm not kicking you, this is under the old administration. It just doesn't seem to be very organized where we're not getting the bench time that we need. If that judge is supposed to be there for 8 hours a day, I'd like to see 8 hours of work done. And Mr. Eubanks, I think you can help me out on this. Some days we might get but an hour and a half of bench time. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's averaging, the judge is only there probably 10 hours or less a week on the bench, so. And then I've talked to both of them about it. I mean, that was some of the issues that
But
were some of our concerns.
that needs to be addressed, and I mean, it just sort of milling around, willy-nilly, not having one case ready to go. It depends on the judge, who the judge is there, because now some of them will get on somebody's, you know what, and say, all right, let's move with the next one. But, so I think you've been misinformed as far as your people talking to the defendants or whatever. Because I know of one bond reduction hearing that went on about 3 or 4 months ago, that he was spoken to the day before and at the reduction hearing, and that was it. That was it. I think he'd been misinformed. But I would give you an opportunity to go back and look and see, because that jail log should tell us who goes in and out of that jail and when. And that ought to be in writing somewhere, hadn't it? But I honestly think, we've got people sitting over there, I honestly think would go ahead and plea straight up just to get out of that jail and go spend their time at SCDC. I believe that. On the solicitor side, and for whatever reason, Mr. Birch, we've got the accused inmate or whatever. Someone's been in there 3 years. I mean, this is not you, this is the former administration, but what are we thinking? It's costing us every day for that person to be in that jail. And I'm not gonna claim to know the ins and outs of it, but it's got to be cleaned up from the inside out. More efficiency in the courtroom. If you need more help, that's something that we can talk about, and plus the finance committee can talk about when it comes to budget time, because right now there are no funds. Everything's been allocated. We'd have to do a supplemental appropriation to give them a dime, right, Mr. Rucker?
Yes, sir. My understanding is they're talking about for upcoming fiscal year, what y'all are asking for. That's correct.
Okay, so you're getting ahead of yourself with the budget, which is fine. You need to get started.
Yeah, that's right.
But now, Mr. Birch, you have an office in Marlboro County at all? Yes, sir. Okay, I knew you didn't at one time because actually the roof fell in on it, I believe, didn't it? So you combined all your people up here, but now where's your office at in Marlboro?
It is on 207 West Main, the same address as here. And I have 4 staff there. So essentially, all of our admin staff that was there have been moved to Chesterfield, which works well with me because I live here.
Right.
This is where I will be most of the time. So we do have over 20 people here. And that's, of course, we're moving across the street.
Correct.
And it's great for that. And I appreciate that. And so, as far as my hub is here,
Chesterfield, okay. But I am old school, and I'm more of a show me kind of guy. Show me what you can do, then come to me and ask me, or ask this body for funds. But between now and budget, I'd be cleaning up that docket just as damn hard as I could. The ones who plea out, let them plea. And try to reduce that jail population and show me what you two guys can do together. But, sir, I would look hard at what we talked about and look at that jail roster over there and see. Because, I mean, piece of paper lay down, let you write whatever you want to on it. And you tell somebody something to do it, sometimes it don't get done. And that's the only thing I'm gonna say. Thank you.
Mr. Ford?
Yeah. So I think that if this body could work something out, we're all in agreement that we got the problem. Y'all know y'all got shortcomings that y'all have inherited. You know, Mike, you're new to the solicitor's office. You know there's things that could be done different. Nathan, we've talked about things that need to be done different. I can't dwell on the past, and I can't hold the past against either one of y'all. only thing I can do is try to help bring solutions to the problem instead of just stopping the bleeding. Right. And we're gonna have to work together. And if this body decides to take the extra step and say, you know what, we'll try something like this for 3 years or whatever to give y'all an opportunity to show us what you can do. And if we take that step and y'all can't perform, shame on y'all. And if you do, then that's a phenomenal thing for the taxpayers and the system in general, because those people in jail, yeah, they're inmates and they're defendants, but they're innocent until proven guilty.
That's true.
And so at the end of the day, we're not doing justice by them. We're not doing justice by the taxpayers. We're not doing justice by anybody. The only ones getting any justice is defense attorneys, because they're making free money for not having to do anything. They get their money on the front end and they're not having to do it. So my position on it would be, if we figure out how to fund this and make it work, it's gonna be on y'all.
You brought up something very important, and I appreciate your position. Love for that. Supreme Court issued a docket management order last year or 2 years ago about how they'd like to see us run efficiently. And if y'all would be able to give us those people, they want us to have what they call a triage, where you hit the case on the front end. You say, is it a good case? Is it a bad case? Should this person be given a plea deal, or should they go to trial, or you just evaluate it? And that way you're hitting it on the front. So you have a team for that. Then you have, like you said, another team is prepping for trial and prepping for court. Prepping for court. Then you have the third team who's actually prepping the trial. So you have hitting it on the front, prepping for the non-jury, the jail stuff you can move, and then the people who are taking those cases to trial. And so if you had 6 people, which was what I would have under your plan, 2, 2, and 2, and they would rotate. So nobody's doing the same job. Everybody's getting their, attorneys, they're like anybody in a boxing match or whatever. They like to get in the arena, and they like to fight, and they like to win. And it gets all of them through that rotation, and they love their job. And that's why we don't do it. We can go make much more money in private practice if we wanted to. But we like the things we do, like you do in your jobs. So it would make my people love their job more, number one, but it would also help. You're the jail, it would help our community and safety.
So one more thing, and I'm done, Ms. Burns. So if you got 2 attorneys to complete that theoretical scenario, if you got 2 seasoned attorneys, could you guarantee us that you would pull a jury every month?
Well, not in the guarantee.
You can pull it, doesn't mean you don't use it.
But I think we would definitely be in a lot better shape to do it. Because that's, like, say you had those 2 on the trial, that's their job that week, is to try. And I mean, you get people walking that room, they see the black road, and they're like, I'm gonna pull it, I don't even wanna.
You don't move cases until you get to that time. On those crimes, that's when they make them decisions. They don't make decisions sitting at the jail just saying, well, they might take us to trial one day. When they go up there and they see the jury's there, it gets real.
And one thing we did where I came from, talking to you, Mr. Administrator, about this is, well, we have these trials and they plea and then we have nothing to do. I feel like my side succumbs to, you shouldn't punish people for their constitutional rights to trial. That's not what I'm saying. But if you give them an offer, say it's 10 years on a burglary instead of whatever, and they don't take it 2 weeks before when the judge is in town, and my people have to dig in and prep for 2 weeks, and that's all they do. They don't get to see the children or whatever, put them to bed. When it comes to trial time, it's straight up. And of course, there's exceptions, you know, sometimes witnesses, they don't show up, or they're scared to testify. Police officers quit, get fired, whatever it is. There are exceptions to this thing. Things happen at the last minute that you didn't know. So I think we can do a better job of saying, all right, we've prepped for this, the plea deal is off the table because you had that opportunity. So, and that, I mean, I don't think we should have trials just for the sake of trials, because you, like I said, if you're trying cases, you're not moving cases. We need to be as efficient as possible. But there's things on my side tactically that we can do to, I'll tell you what, if the people in that jail know that a judge is coming and handing out candy bars all week, they're gonna all flock to play, they're all talking to each other. You know, and
That's true.
whatever, if you got people that license, they know about it. They talk, they're human, they all know it. If we can get their attention that we mean business, and that we can, it's a trickle effect. It all affects each other. So that's my side of the aisle talking, but I think there's things we can do to improve, for sure, and we've already started that. And I've had discussions with my staff about it as of now, because we have to take a stand for our people too, so. Yeah, I'm sorry.
And, no, you're good. And, you know, this is multi-faceted, multi-pronged phase. You know, I would love to have a dedicated jailhouse attorney, but there's a lot of logistics we have to work out for that. You know, someone that's their only process, to help kind of on the front end, like Mike was saying. But, you know, it is judge dependent. I mean, if we have a judge in town and everybody knows who they are, that's gonna churn and burn cases, that's a better plea week. Judges, you know, harder judges, that should be a trial week. So you gotta know your audience just like any other place.
Well, I know y'all got other things to do, but for example, this week, I think they had a client who wanted to plead to some animal charges. People feel different about animal charges. Well, the judge was gonna give her the max if she pled, and she didn't plead. And so that affects every other case, and people start backing out. And so the list that we have to move these cases, or they have their bond hearings, and when the judge lets them out, so then all of a sudden start vanishing because of the trickle effect. So that's what I'm saying. Sometimes things we can't control at all. And then your point, Mr. Curtis, just because the judge isn't on the bench, and I think when the judge is on the bench, things happen, I agree with that. But there's also times when the judge is waiting on us. So I don't want to throw the judges on the bus, because he may be meeting with his client, and we're waiting on them, or we're meeting with the victim and trying to, whatever, you know, there's just so many layers.
I was assuming that's what your investigator was going to do, put all these things together. That's what he was hired to do, correct?
They track down witnesses, victims, evaluate the case from a law enforcement
Right.
standpoint, tell us whether we have a good case or not. Yes, in some aspects, you're right.
Mr. Curtis, you know this better than I do, but what we see now, I've been working with solicitor as a partner for 2 decades, as a pastor. What we see now between you and defense attorney, y'all are very proactive. Last administration, they were not proactive. I can go over it in detail, but I'm not. But y'all are very proactive, and that's what we need. So thank you for being proactive. You want to get things done. And I believe that we are going to help you. I think we should help you in every way possible. Now, Nathan said 2 for you. You need 1 or 2. You might as well speak now. Okay, you gotta be proactive. You need 2 like he need 2.
Yeah.
He trying to cut you down to 1.
They don't need but a part-time apiece.
I do have a question. And I've been doing a lot of listening, and I think we all agree that we have an issue over here. We're working with a budget that's the only one that we really deal with that we can't pull back from if we don't get what we pay for or feel like we do.
Right.
So we're trying to negotiate and figure out a way to give you what you need, but protect us at the same time, because like I said, coincidentally, yours is the only one we can't pull back from, right? So, and if we give you something and we don't get what, I mean, it's not lost on me that we're trying to figure out and negotiate with two guys that negotiate circumstances for a living, right? So if we don't get what we pay for, what's the reason? So I said all that to say this. If people are your biggest problem right now, I mean, people to help with the case, I can understand that. I can wrap my head around it. It makes sense to me. What is the next challenge that you see? Because like with anything else, if we plug this hole, the next one's gonna get bigger, right? And I don't wanna be in here a year from now, or 2 years from now, or 3 years from now, saying, well, we were at 133 the day we had that conversation, and now we're at 155. Well, that's because of X, Y, and Z. Well, let's talk about it. Because I can tell you, if you could lower the number of people in the jail by 20 people a day, average, over the course of the year, we could pay for those 3 attorneys in a blink, based on what it costs us to house them. I mean, and maybe I'm going in the wrong direction, but if we just look at, like Ethan brought up the Band-Aid thing, and I think if we don't look at the big picture, and maybe it's, I like what you said. If the judge isn't on the bench, he's probably waiting on us. That makes sense to me, right? So, but what are the challenges that you see that are gonna keep you from being able to reduce that number? Because that's what we're all, at this table, I think we're really after, seeing that population go down. What's the next biggest challenge, other than your staff?
Court time, getting it from Columbia.
Get it from Columbia.
I keep going back to staff, but once we get them, we gotta keep them happy. We gotta keep them looking elsewhere. The work-life balances.
Because what, for example, I just hired 2 attorneys, started them at 60. Well, just as fast as the word gets around the jail, it gets around offices, that, you know, our benchmark, that law clerk is gonna make 80, and they're like, start looking around.
We seem to fight that in a lot of departments here, too.
It's keeping our people motivated to do the job too. Well, they're not coming in, whatever factors are, they don't produce. We're like CEOs. We didn't run, I run to be in the courtroom and with this, and I haven't been a job, more than this. So when you ask that question, it's making sure, challenge is making sure we use what we get properly and keep it full throttle. And that's the problem.
That's kind of what I was looking for.
I gave you that pamphlet from Solicitor Newton. And of course, I got all the money in the world across the world. But he gives them take-home cars and just recruiting. It's a recruiting. He's going to Washington, D.C. to try to recruit these law students. And it's a machine. And
They also do a pay match on like student loans. Stuff we just don't have access to here.
And we're a long way from that.
Being proactive.
I love it here, but we're just trying to be competitive to recruit, get fully staffed, where we can do the triage program and the rotation where our people, during COVID, we started losing people left and right. And we went from teams, like Mr. Ford was saying, where you're up for trial at every term, it affects your morale, like, as an attorney, eventually. It just beats you down. And so, with a team, you're like, well, I can prep for January, and then I'm looking to March, where I don't have to look at February, and I have all this anxiety. We're the #1 profession for suicide and depression, everything here. But, I mean, we're having to manage these people who are dealing with, well, we don't know what, and then they come to us like, we're done. We're going to do what we can, because we don't want to do this job anymore. So, and that's just our attorneys, we're not talking about our support staff. So, we're getting in the weeds, but you see it's a lot to do.
It's a lot, apparently, I mean, we've been talking about this for quite some time. And I know we still have a discussion that needs to be done, because just saying we're gonna give you 2 people and you 2 people, or you 6 people or whatever, that's not something that's gonna be determined today. So I think it's gonna warrant another meeting so we can kind of maybe hash some more things out, but we're not gonna get it all done today. We appreciate y'all coming, a lot of good information, but we'll need to do another follow-up meeting, in my opinion, with the judicial staff and anybody that wants to come, but to see if we could come up with some other alternatives. And this is a good time for you to come, because our chairman of the finance committee, they're getting ready to start working on budget, so, you ask early. But we're gonna need some other answers and some more discussions to take place. So, again, thank you all for coming. We'll be in touch.
Thank y'all so much for the floor. So good seeing y'all. Any questions y'all have follow-up?
Well, I'd like to come see you.
Thank you so much for coming. All right, thank you for coming.
I think it's impossible for the solicitor to answer that question about.
Hey, Mike, thanks, bro.
Thank you, Attorney Burch. Looking forward to working with you. Congratulations, too.
It's impossible, bro. You gotta
We need to
Right, you gonna get that.
some other options.
Yeah, they can't be gone.
Counsel, oh, man.
Repeat offenders.
The Mary Anderson still work with you? I mean, not Mary, but
That's the,
Well, we really could have.
I was just saying, if we could come up with ways
still work with you?
Okay, thank you.
to reduce that jail population, I think that's what we are looking at right now.
And that's what it's gonna take, like I told him, just plain as day.
There's a hurry.
I'll text you mine.
always gonna
Take it somewhere.
not yet.
Yeah, I think we hadn't finished this one. We got the capital project sales. Okay, so we're down to the capital project sales tax. I'm gonna pass this on to Mr. Ruffner.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. Capital project sales tax, council, at this point, they did pass the required resolution to create a capital project sales commission. That was some time ago. The county council appointed their 3 members of the commission. Statutorily, the municipalities are entitled to appoint 3 members, and there's a formula in the statute for that. Under that formula, the only municipality with enough population to appoint a member was Sherrall. They appointed their member. That is where things stand at this point. The next step would be for that Sherrall member to appoint 2 other members to the commission to complete the formation of the commission, and then for the commission to start meeting to eventually bring back to council a proposed ballot referendum. I think at this point, what council needs to decide, or this committee recommend to council to decide, is do you want to look at trying to do that in 2025, which although we're not too far into 2025, keep in mind that this would all have to be done, and when I say done, I mean completed by, I believe, August 15th, in order for that ballot referendum to get to the Election Commission in Columbia? Or do you want to look to do this in 2026? As the 2 gentlemen who were just here were speaking, it occurred to me that what happens with them could affect what council decides to do as far as the purpose of this capital project sales tax, as I understand it, which is to fund the construction of a new detention center. So what happens with this could potentially affect what council decides as to this capital project. That being said, some other things I thought of that to consider are, one, of course, as I said, is the time. Your time is running short to get this done for 2025. The other thing is, although it's permissible to do in 2025, which is what we'd kind of call an off-year election-wise, there are not any other elections that I'm aware of such that there would be an added cost in having to fund an election or a ballot initiative that may be the only thing on the ballot. Whereas if you wait until 2026, you're going to have a general election coming up that November where other things are going to be on the ballot. So this would be simply adding on to the ballot that's already going to be in place. So those are some things to consider. From my standpoint, I think it would be very, very difficult to do for 2025. My thought would be go ahead and recommend 2026, but with the understanding that we still need to go ahead and get to work on this if it's something you still want to pursue. Because although it seems like November 2026 seems like a long time away. It'll be here before we know it. And again, there's a lot to this process to do to get it from the commission to the ballot. There's a lot of moving parts there. So my thought would be look at 2026, and if council is still interested in pursuing this, go ahead and get that in motion and get started working on that. So be glad to try to answer any questions that committee members or other council members may have.
How much of a sale tax is it?
It's up to 1%. You know, most counties do 1%, but it really is up to 1%, so it can be anywhere between 0 and 1%.
And the school system just approved at 1%, the penny, right?
Right. I mean, it's called a penny. It's really 1%, though. Obviously, 1% of a dollar is a penny. Some people take offense to you calling it 1%. I'm not looking at anybody in particular, Mr. Smallwood.
I like the 1%, I don't like the penny.
But anyway, yes, sir, to answer your question, it is 1%. And there are estimates from Department of Revenue as to how much that would raise per year. And there are, I would call it mechanisms built into the statute, especially with the capital project sales tax, that would limit that funding. In other words, if you make the project gets paid for in, say, year 5, then the 1% comes off, or whatever the additional sales tax is comes off.
Just for the purpose of a new detention center.
Correct. That's what council initially was exploring doing this for.
Okay.
Because otherwise, and the way it would really work is it would be if the referendum passed, it would really be to fund it through the issuance of bonds that would be paid with the sales tax. Because otherwise, there's no way for the county to either come up with upfront or even leverage through GO bond or any other of our borrowing mechanisms that we have available to us to fund the amount that a new detention center would cost. So that's why the prior council had voted to explore doing this. So, but again, at this point, I think you need to look at when do we want to try to do this, and even if the decision is let's wait to 2026, I still think there needs to be some movement, certainly before the end of this year, some real serious movement as to that.
And when you say a movement, moving forward to put this in as a referendum?
Right, well, at least get the commission formed, at least have them start meeting, because that's where the work is really done, and that's just the way the statute is written. The council appoints the commission. The commission is really the one that comes up with the ballot question. That ballot question comes back to council. Council votes it up or down as to whether or not it goes on the ballot or not. So that's when I say get moving, I mean get the commission formed, get them on track to look at what it's going to cost, because obviously that's going to determine, is it feasible to do this? How much? Is it possible to do it with less than 1%? Those types of things that the commission would need to be looking at before it made its way back to council, and then if council voted to get on the ballot. As I say, there's a lot of steps between where we are now to just getting it on the ballot.
Well, with that said, it seems to me, so we're not trying to rush something through, I would suggest, my personal opinion, is that we wait until 2026 and not try to push something through, to try to get it on the ballot at more of a cost to the taxpayers and try to do it this year. So I would say we need to move forward with it, but to do it next year, 2026. Comments?
I mean, I don't have any comments. The only comments I got is, we just heard these too here that, I mean, we've got to figure out what we're gonna do with that as far as next budget year and all that also, so. There's a lot of money decisions that's gonna have to be made right here with this council and all, so, I mean, I'm in agreement with, I mean, taking Ms. Burns' advice to next year, we get on it hot and heavy and how long will that process take? I mean, I know you said it's a long drawn out process. I mean, is it 6 months? I mean, 3 months?
I mean, council tried to do this, gosh, that's been a while ago. And the problem then was, it was just multiple projects. I think council's intention was that it be for road improvements, and it got, and that's just the nature of the statute. It got to the point where each town wanted something, and I think in this situation, if council could make clear to the commission that this is the project that we're looking at doing this for, that would cut down on a lot of time. In other words, if the commission knows ahead of time that, hey, if you send this back to us and it's, you know, just this wish list of projects, that we're not going to put it on the ballot. We're not even going to get to that point. That will make the process a lot easier. If it's a one building project, then that will cut down on the amount of time that the commission will have to work. Now, that being said, there's still a lot of work to be done, even if it's just the one building and it's a detention center, as far as plans, cost estimates, those types of things. But short answer to your question, that would cut down on the time a lot, because that is where we ran into last time. I know Mr. Curtis was on council then.
Yeah, it was just a circus.
I was going to say, it got very convoluted, took up a lot of time, and when it got back to council, I think eventually council did vote not to put it on the ballot.
Because the major project was to pave Hardin Swamp Road.
Right, yeah. So,
Come.
so yeah, I think that would make this particular situation different if it was made clear from the beginning that this is the project we want you to look at funding, commission, and this is what we want you to look at the cost estimate of this, what it would cost, and then you send back to us something on that. That would cut that process down a lot, because as I say, there was a lot of time spent just deciding on which projects we're going to fund. You started with a list of, and I'm not exaggerating, it was probably 30 or 40 projects. At least. And it got whittled down to maybe 10 or 12 by the time it got back to council. So that would cut down the time. To give you an answer, the ballot question has to be in the form of an ordinance, so that's going to be 3 months. So, I think you're talking about, at best, a 6-8 month time frame. I think that would be a pretty compact time frame there.
So, we need to get it on the radar in the January meeting.
I would say so, yeah. I would say you need to get it going before the end, in earnest, before the end of this year.
Yeah.
This calendar year.
Yeah. After we,
Mr. Kirk, I'd also say that you need some lead time there to educate the public.
right.
What this money is going for.
Absolutely, yeah, you would.
You want your taxes to go up?
Right.
Or you can let everybody pay that comes through this county, regardless of whether they spend money at. And you're saying it might not even be a 1%.
It doesn't have to be. I know there's at least one county that has done less than a 1%.
I can't remember, did the school put theirs on?
They
They
did.
did, and it got approved.
That
They
got
got
approved this
approved.
last election.
1 penny.
Okay. 'Cause actually, we were gonna try to beat y'all to the draw, but it didn't work out too good.
That might be another advantage to not do it this year.
Right.
They just got theirs approved, it's done, give the people a little break.
Yeah.
Before we come back and ask.
Madam Chair, I do like the idea, though, that tax thing. Everybody can contribute, not just Chesterfield County. That's a smart move.
Yeah. Well, so is the consensus then to wait until next year,
Yes.
committee? We don't have to have
You
a
don't need,
motion.
there's
to
no
do
need to
that.
vote on that. I mean,
Okay, well,
everybody's made it pretty clear, and we'll probably pass that on, Mr. Eubanks and I'll probably pass that on to our successors to work on, that can be like priority number, or one of their priorities anyway.
okay.
When they get started next
Might be
year.
the reason he said, no, I don't think I'm interested.
Well, with that said then, is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Motion to adjourn this meeting.
Is there a second? Second. It's been moved and properly second that we adjourn this meeting.